Yo, yo, yo. It's another episode of the Culturally Controversial Podcast. This your boy Ty H. Our fierce leader, Mr. Nicholas Dunlap, Mr. CCP himself. He's tending to other matters, so he's not going to be with us at the moment. He may be joining later on, but if not, I still got the family. It's me and you guys, so we're going to make it rock. Of course, tonight's episode is the preview of the Anson Senior High School football game tomorrow against Piedmont and the recap of last week's game against Parkwood. So there's a lot to unpack, some good, some bad, some ugly. So we're definitely going to unpack some of that. I'm going to need your interaction on this one today because it's just us. So if you talk to me, I'll talk back. And if you talk back to me, we'll get done faster. So here goes. Last week, our Anson County Bearcats took on the Parkwood Wolfpack. They used to be the Parkwood Rebels, but they're the Wolfpack now. That was the first conference game of the season in the Rocky River 3A 2A conference. Parkwood is one of the 3A members of the conference, and Anson's one of the 2A members of the conference. This was an important game because Anson was coming off of a two-game winning streak after having started the season 0-3. So, of course, you know by now, Anson held on to win the game 34-27 to win the third consecutive game and to win their first conference game. So with that, Anson currently stands at 3-3 and 1-0 in the Rocky River 2A 3A conference. So how do we get here? Of course, we lost our first game of the season in a heartbreaking fashion to the North Stanley Comets. We lost that game 17-12. Week 2, we lost to the Sun Valley Spartans out of Indian Trail, 35-7. The final score doesn't indicate the competitive nature of the game. Of course, that was a game that was tied 7-7 late in the third quarter before things avalanched. Week 3, we played against the North Orleans Cavaliers out of Spencer, North Carolina. We lost that game 38-28. That was a game that we got off to a slow start, got down 28-6. We rallied back and showed competitiveness, but we weren't able to hold on. Then the week after that, things turned around a little bit. We eked out a win against the Albemarle Bulldogs, 17-14, to get our first win of the season. And that's when we went into a bye week after that. After the bye, we returned and we took on the Pageland Central Eagles and won that game in convincing fashion, 48-21. That was our second win in a row. And then that brings us to last week when we took on the Parkwood Wolfpack and ended up winning that game 34-27. Jermaine Griffin, glad to have you with us, man. I'm gonna need you to talk to me because Nick's not here, so it might just be me and you. So, man, don't be afraid to talk to me, and I'll talk back to you, my brother. All right, as far as my analysis of the game against Parkwood, Jermaine, you're just in time because your son dominated on the field in that game. He rushed for like 220 something yards, if I'm not mistaken. You may know the exact number. Also, his backfield mate, Kendrick May, rushed for about 143 yards. So Anson rushed for about 360 yards on the game, dominated the line of scrimmage completely. Also had efficient play from quarterback Luke Hyatt, solid play from Courtney Sturvant, solid play from everyone on offense all around, good team effort. The good things that I loved how we dominated the line of scrimmage. The last 2 weeks we've dominated the line of scrimmage. We've been able to move the line, and Jermaine, your son, he's running with authority. He's running as hard as I've seen him run, and you can tell that he's finally fully confident and healthy. He looks like what we expect him to look like, and it's coming full circle. And he and Kendrick, they're both running with authority. And what I like, they're running downhill. There's none of that dancing in the backfield, none of that zigzagging. It's just get north and south, run downhill, and dominate. I want to commend Coach Luke Hyatt, offense coordinator, assistant head coach. He called an excellent game. We weren't predictable. Good balance of run pass. Good balance of being aggressive on first down. Good red zone play calling, sticking to what worked. Ended up putting the ball in the end zone. And so right now, I mean, it seems like everything on offense is clicking. Another thing I like the intensity from Coach Jackson. Coach Jackson seems to have a fire lit under him. It seems like right now he sees the potential of this team. He sees how special this team can be. The team is peaking right at the right time, and I'm seeing a lot of intensity from Coach Jackson, and I'm loving it. Jermaine, I definitely agree with you on the play calling. There's been a good balance on the play calling. It's nothing that's predictable. Everything is rolling, and of course, when the offensive line is playing as well as it's playing, it's easier to call plays. Jermaine, correct me if I'm wrong. Were there some movement made on offensive line? Because the guys on offensive line don't appear to be be a part of the same combination that was starting the first few games of the season. Were there some changes made because they look bigger and stronger? And if you can answer that'd be perfect. Because if so, you got to commend Coach Jackson and his staff for making the proper adjustments to put his team in best position to win. So those are some of the good takeaways. The bad. There's still some things I don't like. That center QB exchange reared its ugly head again. I'm sure anybody who's at the game, and I'm sure Jermaine, you remember this as well. Third quarter of that game looked like the game was tied at 14. I mean, we were up 20-14 at the time, looking like we're going to take a 27 or 28-14 lead and assume control of the game. And the ball seemed to be snapped above the QB's head, or either it was mishandled. Nevertheless, it wasn't secured. Another player ran down to try to pick the ball up. At that time, we should have fallen on it. And thank you for correcting Mr. Samuel. Well, to those offensive linemen, if it's the same group of guys, kudos to you guys for getting better. You didn't make excuses. You didn't quit. You didn't hold your head down. You just worked your tails off and got better. And I commend you, offensive line, for doing what you're doing. But back to what I was talking about. The snap was above the head, and we tried to recover it and pick it up. Instead, we should have fallen on it. Granted, I understand it's in the heat of the moment, and sometimes in the heat of the moment, you may not always think the most logically. That's in any component of life. So I'm not here to crucify a kid for not thinking clearly in the heat of the moment. But in hindsight, it would have been better to have fallen on that ball and maintained the possession, and then still, the way the offense was moving, had a chance to go up by 2 scores. Nevertheless, in the most flukiest of events, Parkwood picks that ball up and run it all the way back for a touchdown to tie the game at 20-20. So there's the bad. Now back to the good. Here's the difference. Once upon a time, when something like that would happen with the Bearcats, we would fold. Because subsequently after that, we started getting a slew of penalties called against us. We started getting backed up because of those penalties, but we didn't fold. We ended up having to punt the ball because of penalties on our ensuing possession. And earlier this year, if that would have happened, the Bearcats would have melted down. They would have fallen apart, and they would have subsequently lost the game. But this group of Bearcats had resiliency. They didn't fold. They weren't complaining to the officials. Coach Jackson huddled his guys up, got them focused. They went right back to Jermaine Griffin. They not Jermaine Griffin, I'm sorry, brother, your son. They went right back to Jazeer Griffin. They handed him that ball. They fed the Beast. And when the Beast needed to take a break, they handed it to Kendrick May and fed him too. And that backfield continued to eat. And then every now and then, Luke Hyatt Jr. himself said, I want a little bit. And he would take it himself and run a little bit. And we stuck with the formula that was working. We didn't lose our composure. We didn't let bad calls from the officials get us out of our element. And we reassumed control of that game. So that's something I'm proud of. That shows growth and maturity. And you have to give your kudos to Coach Jackson for how he's been able to get the team to stay focused and maintain its composure. Now back to the bad. The turnovers can plague you. This is a game that should have been a blowout. Now, granted, a win is a win. And I will never ask these young men to apologize for winning a game, because winning a game is hard to do. So a win is a win, and I'll take it any day of the week, especially a conference win against a team of a higher classification this in your conference. So I'll take that any day of the week. But the turnovers, the first turnover, I believe, was a fumble, and it was a fumble in plus territory. I believe quarterback was pressured, and he didn't see a pass rusher coming from behind him, and he swiped the ball out of his hand. That was a turnover. We probably had a chance to score a touchdown right there. Good thing is the sudden change defense was able to go out there, get the ball right back to us. We intercepted the ball. So that worked out as well. But those turnovers, I'm trying to think that we had about 3 of them and still won the game. And Mr. Tyrell TV, glad to have you through, my brother. So thank you for coming to show the support. I'm sure you're a friend of the channel, and I believe you have a channel as well. So those of you who are watching, please support this good brother. He's a friend of ours, and if he's a friend of ours, then he's a friend of you guys. So he's family, and we got to support our family. Back to the initial point. Those turnovers have to be taken care of. And since we're here, we have the family here. I'm going to open things up for questions. So if anybody got a question or anything they want me to regarding this game that they saw or want to talk about or want me to chime in on, it's open discussion. So please bring your question in. I want to hear from you. I want to know what the people are thinking. The Bearcat Nation has a right to be heard, and this is a forum where you're not going to be silenced. This is a forum where you're not going to be censored. This is a forum where you don't have to feel fearful to express how you feel. So please, if there's anything that you feel needs to be said, remember this is a family environment, so just make sure that it's family friendly, but please express yourself because we want to hear it. So, but until then, I'm going to continue with my analysis. Those turnovers are things that we have to fix because against a formidable opponent, those things can be costly. Parkwood is the same team that lost to Pageland Central 35-3, and we beat them in a dogfight 34-27. That's not to shortchange anything that we did. That's not to ridicule us. That's not to say that we're not what we're capable of being. The point I'm making is how turnovers can impact the result of a game. Because of those 3 turnovers that we had, all of them we were in scoring position, getting ready to score. One of them led to a score the other way. If we play a clean game and hold on to the ball, that's probably a blowout victory. And that's probably a victory. Jermaine, I'm going to read what you just said because that hit my heart. You said if we get more meat at the left guard, we're going to shock the conference. I love that confidence, and that's believable and it's attainable. And I'm going to tell you why. It's funny you mentioned that because I remember a play that should have gone for a touchdown. It was a third down play. It was a little trickery involved. I think it looked like a jet sweep, and the ball got pitched back to Courtney Sturtevant. And if we were one block away from Courtney having a free run for a touchdown, and but somebody on the line on the left side of the line wasn't able to engage in their blocking time, and that caused the play to get blown up, and we weren't able to get that first down. And ultimately, we ended up turning the ball over on downs. That was another scoring opportunity. And had we been able to get that block, they weren't going to catch Courtney Sturtevant. He's a heck of an athlete, and if you get him in open field, he can do damage. But unfortunately, the block wasn't there, and we were unable to score points. So in a game like this, where we were sloppy as we were, we still managed to score 34 points. He said on that play, Jazeer missed the block. Hey, I love the accountability, man. And let me tell you something about you, Jermaine. Now, you're a heck of a father, man. I love the way you support your son. I love the way you support your children. I love the way you support your nephews. Same thing with your brother, Anthony. He, a great supporter of the program, great supporter of the young men. And I love how you hold them accountable. And I think and this is not any knock on anybody, but in society in general, if we had more families that had more active fathers like you who held their children accountable, I think we will be in a better position to have a better society. So I want to commend you for being the excellent father that you are, my brother, and I want to commend you for how you hold your son accountable. On the flip side, your son has a lot of responsibility on him, so I'm not going to crucify him for that. Yes, that's a play that he should have made, but your son made so many plays Friday night to where, you know what, we're going to give him a pass on that. You got to realize this young man is playing running back. He's playing outside linebacker. This he's asked to do a lot, and he doesn't appear to ever get tired. So he made a mistake on the field, but I think he more than made up for it throughout the night. But I appreciate the accountability, and I agree. If he made that block, Courtney walks in with a score. But the good thing about it, the things that didn't go well are all things that had more to do with us than the opponent, and are correctable and are teachable things. It's a matter of just attention to detail, and we're getting better. It just that was a game where some mistakes ended up being costly, but not to the point where we let it cost us the game. So one thing when I evaluate not only a football team, but just in life, at the workplace, in relationships, anywhere. It's easy to be at your best when everything is going right around you. But what do you do when you're faced with adversity? This group of guys has shown me that they're able to fight through adversity. From the 0-3 start to the season to having won 3 games in a row, that shows they're able to fight through adversity. Um, and Jermaine, I'm going to repeat this again. You said this to me at North Rowan. I mean, at Anson against North Rowan. And I'm not going to lie to you, brother. I thought you were crazy as a bed bug. You said this. We lost that game 38-28. And remember when I was walking out of the gate, I walked up to you and you looked at me and you said, I'm okay because they showed me something. And I looked at you like you were crazy as all get out. And in my mind, I was thinking, what is he talking about? But ever since that night, it's been a different team to walk out on the field. Ever since that night, it's been a newfound focus. Ever since that night, I've seen a different attitude. Ever since that night, I've seen a different demeanor. So everything you said so far has made perfect sense and it's coming to fruition. So you saw something that night and it came to pass. And so kudos to you because you saw it. You saw it when nobody else saw it. When I didn't see it, you saw it. So for you to see that, for you to recognize that, hey, kudos to you because then, and again, you were a renowned athlete in your own right. So maybe you have an innate ability to see things that I can't see, given that you experienced it on the field yourself. You know what the locker room atmosphere is like. You know what it's like when how guys feel based on what happens on the field. You know all of that because you partook in it. So again, your judgment has been accurate. So kudos to you for that. Let me read what you said right here. No passes given from me. No passes given from me. That's the small things that he has to do better. And I definitely told him. I definitely hold him accountable for his mistakes. That's because you're a heck of a father. That's why. So again, I appreciate that. And if the team collectively can have that same attitude about the little things, the sky's the limit for this team. And I'm sure you guys have heard of the term "death by 10,000 paper cuts." Like at the moment, it's something little, and we don't think anything of it. But then one little thing turns into another little thing, and then another little thing turns into another little thing, and then another little thing turns into another little thing. And before you know it, all those paper cuts come together to form a laceration, and then you start bleeding. And then when you bleed out, it's too late then when you realize it. And then you get to going through all the ifs. You're thinking, if I had made that block, if I hadn't gotten that false start, if I didn't jump offside, if I didn't fall for that double move, you get to thinking about all of those things. If I hadn't grabbed that face mask, when all of those things compile, that can be the difference between a win and a loss. This, exactly the snowball effect. That's I couldn't come up with a better term. So exactly, and I think when I talked to Coach Jackson last time I saw him in person was after the Pageland Central game, and he talked about a level of focus that's there, that's greater than it's been, and I believe it because I see it on the field. However, we're not out of the woods yet. We've come a long way, but we still got a long way to go, and that leads me into tomorrow's game. Tomorrow we take on the Piedmont Panthers from Unionville, North Carolina, just about 5 miles north of Monroe. Piedmont has struggled this year. They're 1-5, but like Coach Jackson said, it doesn't matter what they are. We have to worry about what we do. And if you don't play sound football, you can be beaten by anybody. If you turn the ball over, you can be beaten by anybody. But the way we're controlling the line of scrimmage right now, I feel a level of optimism. On the defensive side, they're just in the defensive backfield. A couple things I want us to clean up. For one, I want our guys to make sure they turn around and locate the ball when the ball is in the air, and not to panic. I think we have some decent athletes in the defensive backfield, especially DeQuan McKeever. DeQuan McKeever has the potential to be an all-world cornerback. He has all the intangibles. He has good change of direction. He has the ability to locate the ball. He makes timely breaks on the ball. I like DeQuan McKeever, and I think as he continues to get his feet under him, I think he's gonna have an excellent season. And since he's returned from injury, you can tell the difference on the field. And yes, I agree with you. The fight they showed that night at North Rowan, it definitely has continued and throughout the remainder of the season so far. But back to the defense, sometimes the tackling could be a little sloppy at times too. Those are things we got to make sure that we get a grip on, because when you get playing teams that have elusive athletes, one missed tackle could be the difference between a loss of yards versus a touchdown given up. So we have to make sure that we're taking care of business in that regard. And my phone is ringing, and I'm going to have to decline this call. And we're going to have to make sure that we're taking care of business in that regard. Another thing, some untimely penalties. Granted, I know some of these penalties are arbitrary. I know some of these penalties seem like we're being targeted. They seem unfair. It seems like that someone has an agenda against us. I completely get it. And in some cases, I do feel like there's some disparate treatment. Sometimes I do, like those 3 consecutive chop blocks they called against us. You weren't calling anything like that all night, then all of a sudden when the game got tied up, you suddenly get to calling it. Or like that face mask right at the end of regulation when they gave them an untimed down. Those things, things like that, yeah, that hurt me, because I don't really believe in my heart of hearts that those penalties should have been called. But then there are other penalties sometimes throughout the game where you have to, just like, and I'm not going to call the gentleman's number because I'm sure the kid was fighting hard, but we had one gentleman who jumped offside 3 times in the same quarter. And I know the kid was playing hard. And I know that his intentions were great. And so this is not about him. This is just about overall focus. We have to have a level of focus where you can't do those things, because those things can be costly. Even against a team like Piedmont. Piedmont is struggling. They're not a very athletic team. They don't really have a lot of speed. I think that traditionally Piedmont always had size. I don't know what they had this year. But this is a game of Anson's focus. Anson should be able to come into Unionville and win that game without much resistance. However, the game still has to be played on the field, and it has to be a clean game. Because if you turn the ball over and get a lot of untimely penalties, you'll let a team stay in the game. And the longer a team stays in the game, the longer a team will believe they can win the game. And the longer a team believe they can win the game, sometimes crazy things can happen down the stretch of the game. So that's why when you have a team down, you have to knock them out. The problem Friday is against Parkwood, we failed to deliver a knockout punch when we hadn't really. We hadn't really, and we failed to deliver a knockout punch. And we ended up getting caught up in a 12-round knockdown, drag-out fight. It's just that we were the superior athletic team, and we were able to hold on to win, which I'm glad for. We won the game. That's our 3rd in a row. So the objective tomorrow is to win our 4th game in a row, and not only win our 4th game in a row, but get to 2-0 in conference. That's key. You said those DBs need to play with more confidence, and they'll be fine. They need to know their defensive assignments and get there. And I mean, hopefully they had a good week of practice this week, and hopefully when we come out tomorrow, what you just said, hopefully will come into fruition. It'll be a reality, and we can see that take place. You know what? I think Coach Jackson's getting the guys focused. I'm sure he looked at film this week, and I'm sure he's going to have his kids ready to play. This week has to be another confidence builder for us, knowing that we have Monroe the next week. I want to slow down a little bit. Let me slow down a little bit. I saw a yellow light, so I'm going to slow down just a little bit. Let's first take care of the business at hand. My focus, and I hope the team's focus, and I hope Coach Jackson's focus, Coach Hyatt's focus, Coach Pons, and whoever else is on that staff, Nelson and everybody else who I may have forgotten. I hope their focus is solely on the Piedmont Panthers. We want to make the Piedmont Panthers look like the Carolina Panthers. That's what we want to make them look like. And I love the Carolina Panthers, but you get what I mean by that. First thing is, let's win tomorrow. You don't want to get caught looking ahead. Now, granted, we're human. Monroe's been on my mind too. And you know what? I'll chime in on what I feel about Monroe. Monroe has an excellent football team. Monroe is a team who I think can and will compete for a 2A state championship. Coach Johnny Sowell has a loaded team, maybe the most talented team he's had, even more so than that state championship team he had like in 2016 or whatever year that may have been. Coach Johnny Sowell has a squad on him this year. They got D1 athletes. They're good on all 3 levels of defense. They're good on the lines. They're good at skill positions. So when that time comes for us to face Monroe, which will be the week after Piedmont, our first home game in about a month, we got a tall order. But like you said, the first thing we got to do is beat Piedmont. We need to form good habits. So against Piedmont, we need to come out there focused. form good habits, and execute, play a clean football game, and win that game in dominating fashion. Because we need to be at our best because it only gets tougher from here. The week after, we have Monroe, who's a juggernaut. The week after that, we have West Stanley, who's been playing solid football. And then we close out with a very good Forest Hills team as well. So from here on out, it's go time, including tomorrow night. So the point I'm making, Piedmont is a team that you should beat. You can't come out there tomorrow underestimating anybody. You can't come out there tomorrow thinking that this is a cakewalk. You can't come out there tomorrow just going through the motions. You have to treat tomorrow like a playoff game. Monroe's playing. You're right. Monroe is playing with confidence, and they have every right to be confident because right now they're the team to beat in the Rocky River 3-2A. No ands about it. They're the team to beat, and after them is Forest Hill. But the thing about it, the games have to be played on the field. And right now, we're a team that's trying to get ourselves a playoff position, and right now we're playoff hopeful. And my mentality, and I hope the team's mentality, is even though the playoffs don't start until November, to me the playoffs start tomorrow night. Because I think every game you play right now has to be treated like a playoff game with the same focus of a playoff game, with the same intensity of a playoff game, with the same attention to detail of a playoff game, because you want to form playoff habits. Because if you form playoff habits, you'll play like a playoff team. And then if you play like a playoff team, you'll end up in the playoffs. And then if you get in the playoffs, you might advance in the playoffs, and then anything can happen. But it starts with the basics, and it starts right here and right now. We can't wait to the playoffs to try to get to the playoffs. That starts now. And I'm going to pause a minute for a little bit of advertisement. Don't forget that we have merch available. It's at moneyfreshclothing.bigcartel.com. Again, that's moneyfreshclothing@bigcartel.com. If you're looking, it's at the bottom of the screen, and I'm going to repeat it a third time. That's moneyfreshclothing.bigcartel.com. That's where you can find your culturally controversial podcast merchandise. We're trying to advance our brand and our marketing. So please, ma'am, and please, sir, please, we appreciate your support. Not only do we appreciate your support by your subscriptions and by your joining the Facebook group, but we would love to see you in the merchandise. If you're not rocking Bearcat merchandise, the second best thing is culturally controversial podcast merchandise. And if you're looking for it, again, you can find it at moneyfreshclothing.bigcartel.com. So definitely go out there and support. Tell your friends to tell your friends to tell your friends to tell your friends. Please, ma'am, please, sir. I look forward to seeing you in your gear. Now, back to what I was talking about. You have to form good habits, and that starts now. The time is now. The playoffs are right now. Tomorrow against the Piedmont Panthers, that's effectively a playoff game because right now you're jockeying for position. This is the point where you're trying to get yourself in position to get to the playoffs. And every time you fail to win a game, you're knocking where we stand. You're knocking yourself further and further out of position. So these are our playoffs. And we need to have that mindset and that that intensity, and that focus. Jermaine, what are your thoughts about that, man? As far as where we stand right now, what our potential is, Jermaine, you're around those guys, you're close to them. Talk to me. What do you think the potential is? Like, what's the ceiling for this team? I want to know what you think the ceiling is, and I want to know what you think what the floor is. What do you think their best case scenario is, and what do you think their worst case scenario is? Oh, from starting right here, right now, where can you see this team? Right now, it's October the what? It's October the 6th in the year 2023. Where do you see this team on November the 6th? And I'll answer it while I'm waiting on your answer. I think the ceiling is a team that could shock the conference and make a lot of noise, just like you said. But the floor is a team that could end up 3-7. I'm not saying that that's what I think is going to happen. I'm just saying that that it can go either way. But the thing about it, we determine what happens. And the thing is, like I said last week, every goal that Coach Jackson and this team has is still attainable and still right in front of us. We still have an opportunity to win a conference championship. We still have an opportunity to have a winning season. We still have an opportunity to make the playoffs. We still have an opportunity to make an advance in the playoffs. Everything that we're trying to accomplish is in front of us. We may have gotten off to a bad start, but somewhere along the line, the guys got focused. But like I said, we're not out of the woods. We're not home free. We have to look at tomorrow as we're playing against a Piedmont team. It's probably going to be their homecoming. They're probably going to be hungry, and they're going to be ready to compete. And we have to not only match their intensity, we have to surpass their intensity. A lot of people talk about matching energy, and I'm sure when you go on social media, you hear people say, I match energy. I match energy. If so-and-so is giving me this energy, I give that energy back. I match energy. If they're not giving me the energy I need, I'm not giving it back. No, we don't need to match energy. We need to surpass energy. We need to have more energy than they have. We're the faster team. We're the more athletic team. But we also have to be the smarter team. We also have to be the more cerebral team. We also have to be the cleaner team. We also have to be the more passionate team. So no, we don't need to match their energy because when you're matching energy, you're playing to the level of competition. I think we're better, so we should be better. We should look better than a team than the opponent that we're playing. So no, we don't want to match their energy. We want to exceed their energy. We need to come out from the start of this game and show them who the better team is and take care of business. As far as what I think will transpire, we had a close call last week after a big win before. The good thing about it is I much rather make corrections after a win any day than to make one after a loss. Like Coach Jackson said 2 weeks or about 3 weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago now. He said, I'll take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day. I'm going to repeat that. I'll take an ugly win over a pretty loss any day. Let me see what Griffin's talking about. The sky's the limit. We have a great chance to upset some good teams along the way as we play with conference and play in conference. I mean, as long as excuse me, let me repeat that. And let me get it right this time. The sky's the limit. We have a great chance to upset some good teams as long as we play with confidence. I agree. We play with confidence and intelligence. We got to play smart. We have to be confident and smart. With the level of athletes that we have, if you put intelligence and confidence with that level of athleticism, and you have a lethal combination. And I think these guys can play with anybody they line up across, including Monroe, including Forest Hills, including West Stanley, including Piedmont, including whoever may line up across the field. Like Coach Jackson said, it's not about the opponent, it's about what we do. And we have to tighten up. Yes, Griffin, definitely give me the ugly win. Here's a parallel I want to draw. And I may have drawn this last week, and I'm going to draw it again because not that many people watched this last week. Last year, we were 2-1 playing against Albemarle. Went on to win that game, go up 3-1. But we had a dominant first half, and in the second half, we just fell apart and escaped with a 21-14 victory. And from that point on, from the halftime, from the second half of that game through the rest of the season, we played awful and went on a downward spiral. And it seemed like we lost the mojo we had in the first 3 weeks of the season. Now, fast forward to the next season. We're at 0-2 and playing against North Rand, but we played a great second half, even though we weren't able to win the game. And from that point on, we haven't lost a game. It's amazing how last year we were on a good start and played a bad second half and a win and went on a downward spiral. Now we fast forward a year later, we get off to a bad start, play a great second half and a loss, and then we trend upward. It seemed like things have come full circle, and it shows you the level of maturity of what happens when you face adversity. Last year, we were faced with adversity, and we continued to dig a rabbit hole. It was like we were on quicksand. I know if you ever grew up in church, when it says all of the ground is sinking sand, it felt like we were just running and running and running on sinking sand, and no matter what we did, the ground below us continued to sink, and we fell deeper and deeper and deeper in that rabbit hole. Whereas this year, we said, not this time, not again. And now we're trending in the right direction. Parallel I want to draw, the 2006 Concord Spiders and the 2003 Crest Chargers. The 2006 Concord Spiders, and Jermaine Griffin, you definitely know about that 2006 Concord Spiders team because you played against them twice in the same season in 06, if I'm not mistaken. That team, if you remember, started out 0-3, struggled, looked bad, started to put together a few wins, started to gel. Next thing you know, them boys fooled around and won 13 games in a row and went on to win the 3A championship. 2002, 2003, or it might have been '02. Nevertheless, it was roughly 20 years ago. The Crest Chargers out of Boiling Springs, North Carolina, right outside of Shelby. They started out 0-3, similar to us, struggled. Just didn't seem like it was working. Didn't seem like it was going to come together. If they wanted to go right, things went left. If they wanted to go left, things went right. If they wanted to go up, things went down. If they wanted to go down, they end up floating up. It's just whatever they want to do, it would not work. But then they got one victory, and things turned around. And guess what happened? They went on to win 13 games in a row, and guess what? Won a state championship. Am I predicting Anson County to win a state championship? I'm not making any kind of prediction. The only thing I'm telling you is that once you start winning games, develop better habits, develop a winning culture, develop a winning attitude, things can turn around. And once those things turn around and those young men get to believing, they get to seeing the results of their labor, they get to seeing the things that Coach Jackson taught them coming into fruition and working and leading to victories, and you never know what may happen. But you're not building the building all at once, you're building one floor at a time. So it's one step at a time. Bob Brown said, every little step I take, you will be there. So every little step these young men take, we're going to be there. Coach Jackson's going to be there. Jermaine, you're going to be there. And when it's all said and done, let's see where we end up. Because the talent is there. The ability is there. It's just that sometimes the level of focus wasn't there. But it's starting to come around. And you never know what may happen. Right now, we won 3 in a row. Let's turn 3 into 4. Then once we do that, then we'll see where we are. And then we just keep building on what we're building on. And let's see what Jermaine, what you had to say to me right now. Let's see what you got for me. We definitely can play with anybody. There are not many people giving us a chance against Monroe or Forest Hill, but I have faith in our boys, and the table is turning, and it's noticeable. You know something? I like it when it's us against the world. And you grew up around the same era. You're younger than me, I think. So you grew up in the same era I did, Jermaine. And you know that when the Bearcats put on those white jerseys, it was always Anson against the world. Anytime we wore those white jerseys, nobody believed in us. Because when you wear your white jerseys, especially in the playoffs, you're going against somebody that you're not favored to beat. And there have been many times throughout the years that Anson was like, they can't beat them. The 2000 Anson Bearcats, no way they're going to beat Chris. No way they're going to go into Boiling Springs and beat Chris. Well, guess what? Fred Davis and Big Game James Kirby and Brent the Bruiser Simpson went right into Boiling Springs. They beat Chris, even when nobody believed in them. So, I mean, it is what it is on that. 1999, undefeated West Charlotte Lions, coached by the legendary coach Tommy Knox, 11-0, Memorial Stadium, uptown Charlotte, North Carolina. Them old country boys from Anson County with some white shirts, some white pants, and orange helmets. Ain't no way them old country boys gonna go in there and beat the West Charlotte Lions. It cannot happen. It will not happen. I don't believe it's gonna happen. The Charlotte Observer didn't think it was gonna happen. Langston Works Jr. didn't think it was gonna happen. The late great Jerry Valancourt didn't think it was gonna happen. But last time I checked, Fred Davis, Brent the Bruiser Simpson, and my man James Kirby, they felt a little different about it. Kelvin Pratt felt a little different about it. DJ Parson felt a little different about it. So so it doesn't matter what the people say. It doesn't matter what the world thinks. When we have nobody else, we have each other. I remember when Coach Tim McMahon used to coach the team, his motto was one team, one heartbeat. And I remember before each game would start, they would all finish their workouts. Then they would lock arms together and they would go into formation. And then they would walk up to midfield and then walk up to the stands and hold each other's arms up. And we would stand there and give them a standing ovation. And that epitomized the unity that was within that program. And one thing it also symbolized is the belief they had in each other. The my brother's keeper. Like Coach Jack said, every man touch two, or each man touch two, that type thing. That connection. And that's imperative, because people will always doubt you, no matter what your goals are, even in life. I'm sure, Jermaine, there are people that told you that you wouldn't be able to do something, but you got it done. I'm sure there are people that tell your son that, you're not going to be able to do this, but he gets it done. So I like being under the radar. I like that people are not giving us a chance, because when people don't give us a chance, that just connect our guys even more and give them the opportunity and the motivation and the fuel to want to prove doubters wrong. It's nothing new. We're from Madison County. This goes beyond football. If you're from Madison County, you looked at as an underdog. You looked at as a statistic. You looked at a person who's not likely to succeed. So we're used to people doubting us. We're used to people not believing in us. We're used to people looking at us as less than. But every time they do it, all we have to do is prove them wrong. And the last 3 weeks, every time someone doubted us, we proved them wrong. Last week, we were doubted, proved them wrong. The week before, doubted, proved them wrong. Tomorrow, I'm sure we're going to be doubted. Let's go out there and prove them wrong. So I agree with you, Jermaine Griffin. We can play with anybody. We can play with anybody, and we will play with anybody. And tomorrow night, I expect Anson Bearcats to come away with a victory. I'm going to say tomorrow, Anson Senior wins this game. I'm going to say 28-10. I'm predicting Anson to win that game. And hopefully, if that comes to pass, that will put Anson at a 4-3 record, and will put him at 2-0 in the conference if that comes to pass. That's what I'm looking for. And we will be on, and that will put us on a 4-game winning streak with the showdown against the big bad Monroe Redhawks. First things first, we got to take care of our business tomorrow. And as far as Anson's concerned, sky's the limit. We're heading in the right direction. Another team that we all support, I think many of us support, that doesn't look to be heading in the right direction, our beloved Carolina Panthers. Right now, that has been a struggle offensively. Carolina Panthers' offensive line is amongst the worst in the National Football League. According to Pro Football Focus, which isn't end-all be-all, but a common barometer that's used to measure success rate, our offensive line is ranked, I believe, 26th in pass blocking, or maybe 26th overall. Anyway, there are only 32 teams in the league, so in the bottom percentile. A lot of people are upset with Bryce. They're saying that he doesn't do this, he doesn't do that, he has limitations. Granted, Bryce isn't looking like what we hope for him to be, but at the same time, he doesn't have the resources around him. And it's just like when we talked about Anson. If you don't have an offensive line playing with him, it doesn't matter about which have the skill position. And the reason that Anson's improving a lot of offense is because the offensive line is playing well. And because the offensive line is playing well, I see why you came up with that prediction. You're saying Anson's going to win 38-7. I hope you're right, and we'll see what happens tomorrow. And we should do that. And if we do end up winning by that much, a lot of it will be because of the offensive line's brilliant play. And that leads me back to the Carolina Panthers. The reason the Panthers are struggling is one of the primary reasons, at least on offense, is because of the poor offensive line play. So you take poor offensive line play and poor wide receiver play, and you expect a rookie quarterback to be successful. To me, that's a tall order. Now, granted, there are opportunities for Bryce out there in the field. There are times I felt like he could have taken off and picked up yards. There are times where there have been opportunities where he may have missed a target or something may have been errant. I get it. But at the same time, right now, Bryce hasn't been put in position to succeed. And until we put him in position to succeed, you're going to get the same results. All right, Jermaine, you're really getting bold now. Now you upped it up to 42-7. It's like you're getting confident by the minute. It's something must be getting a hold of you. Next thing you know, you're gonna say 49-7. Hey, keep it coming. Hey, at the end of the day, man, as long as we win, as long as at the end of the night they put a W in that column, I'll be satisfied. Because right now, on the flip side, our Carolina Panthers don't have a victory at all. We got 0 W's and 4 L's. And there's been talk about them inquiring about a wide receiver. They've made some calls. They spoke to the Arizona Cardinals about wide receiver Brown. They also spoke with the Cincinnati Bengals about wide receiver T. Higgins. All that's well and good, but if you already don't have the draft capital that you want because you traded so much to get Bryce Young, I don't know if they can afford to trade any more assets away to get a wide receiver. They knew they were going to be lacking a wide receiver when they traded DJ Moore away to get the pick to get Bryce Young. And right now, I think it's one of those things where you got to let it run its course and you got to work with what you have. And it's up to the guys who are on that team. They're professionals. It's up to the guys on that team to get better. We have a game against the Detroit Lions on Sunday. Detroit Lions are playing good football. The game is in Detroit at Ford Field. We're not favored to win the game. We're 9.5-point underdogs, and rightfully so. But this is the National Football League. Anybody can be beaten on any Sunday. I think no one's giving Carolina a chance to win that game Sunday against Detroit. I think the Carolina Panthers are going to come out there. They're going to shock everyone in the NFL, and they're going to defeat the Detroit Lions to get the first win of the season. And that may be the start of some inspired play, which could lead to better results. We'll find out. College football this weekend. I don't know if there are any big games slated, like any marquee matchups. I know a lot of people are following Colorado now with their rival Coach Sanders. I know they're playing against the Stanford Cardinal. If Colorado plays their capability, they should be able to beat Stanford without much resistance. And I expect Colorado to bounce back after 2 losses, and I expect them to beat Stanford Cardinal. The game against USC, they competed. They got down by a lot, but they never gave up. They competed. They made a game out of it. And I think they're going to take the lessons learned from that. They're going to apply it this week. And I think they'll handle the Stanford Cardinal with ease. So it's that's one of those things I think will take place. I'm not sure if there are any other headlining matchups in college football this weekend. I haven't really checked. Oh, yes, there is. The Red River rivalry. The Texas Longhorns and the Oklahoma Sooners. That's a big game this weekend. Oklahoma had a disappointing year last year. They're ranked 12th in the country now. They're undefeated. Texas finally appears to be back. I know we say that every year, but it looks like it's for real this time. After that win against Arizona, excuse me, not Arizona. After that win against Alabama, they seem to have their mojo back. They seem to be focused. They haven't had a letdown since then. And that Texas Oklahoma game, on paper, I want to say Texas will win with no problem. But in the Red River rivalry, you never know what may happen. That's a game that if I was a gambler man, I'll stay away from. Because in those rivalry games, I know it's cliche, but they say throw the record books out the window. I'm still going to lean with Texas because I think Texas has the better overall team. Still not all that sold on Oklahoma. Sometimes Dylan Gabriel can be a little loose with football. I'm not crazy about Brent Venables, the head coach. So I'm going to go with Texas on that and a nail biter. I'm going to say Texas wins that game 35-31. And I think Quinn Ewers, he's playing lights out football right now. He's a guy that you're not really hearing a lot about. But I think even when you talk about postseason awards and recognition, you got to mention Quinn Ewers too, because he's playing brilliant football. Even though they brought in Arch Manning, who people assumed was just going to walk right in and take the job, Quinn Ewers showing the nation that he's one of the elite quarterbacks in this country. And when you talk about Shadur Sanders, when you talk about Bo Nix, when you talk about Caleb Williams, Quinn Ewers is making sure that you call his name too. So I think the Texas Longhorns win that game. I think Texas keeps on rolling. And like Jermaine, let's see. Oh, you said you wouldn't count our offensive line out. We're undersized, but they're learning how to execute. And I'm assuming you're talking about Anson. Yes, they are undersized, but like you said, they're learning how to execute, and that toughness can't be denied. Now, me and you about to disagree a little bit, Jermaine. You've been doing good tonight, but now you want to turn me against you, man. Why you want to go and do that? You just said right here, yeah, they ain't beating Detroit. I'm sorry to crush your hopes. Jermaine, you know just like I know, some strange things happen in the NFL. When you get on that field, I mean, things can happen. This ain't like high school or college where you can pretty much handicap it. In the NFL game, you can have a game where a couple bad snaps, a couple bad penalties, untimely fumbles, special teams gaffes, a block punt. Anything can happen to turn the tides of the game. Another thing, what you mean y'all? So I'm guessing you're not a Carolina fan. As long as you're a Dallas Cowboy fan, we're okay. So I'm not even going to ask you who you root for. But, this has been a great conversation. You're a great guy to brag about you. And I want to keep saying good things about you. So don't even tell me who you root for, man. Hey, I'm kidding around with you. I got immense respect for you, man. You're an avid supporter of the show. And I don't know if I'd have been able to get through the show today without you, man. Our gracious host, again, he had to tend some other matters. Everything's okay with him. So if anybody's concerned, everything's fine with him personally. Just some things he had to tend to took priority. So he wasn't able to join us tonight. But he's been kind of checking us out from afar, make sure everything is operating well. So Jermaine, man, I want to thank you because you ended up being my de facto partner tonight, and you helped me get through the show. So I appreciate your interaction, man. we're getting near the 50-minute mark, so I'm gonna bring things to a close. Before I bring things to a close, Jermaine, was there anything else you wanted to put in the chat before I close things out, man? Since you were such a great participant, man, I want to give you the opportunity to say whatever you wanted to say before I close this out. And I'm gonna give you about 20 seconds, so type fast. If I have some hold music, I'll play it. They know what's running behind them, and they know it's not going to take much to spring them. Hey, we're going to close out on that. That was profound. And folks, he's talking about Anson offensive line, and he's talking about his son, Jazir Griffin. He's talking about, and right now it doesn't take much, and all they got to do is just give him just a crease. And then if they think they got him, Kendrick's going to come right behind him and gash him a little bit more. And tomorrow night, if you want to know what we're talking about, if you want to see what we're talking about, come on out to Piedmont High School tomorrow night. That's on Sykes Mill Road, right off of Highway 218. That's the easiest way to get there. See you tomorrow night. That game is at 7 p.m. This is Anson's second conference game. I look forward to seeing Sea of Orange tomorrow. And again, I want to thank the entire Culturally Controversial podcast audience. Thank you for your support. Thank you for the interaction. Thank you for joining me tonight. Again, remember to subscribe, tell your friends to subscribe, and remember to check out the website that we mentioned earlier to get the merchandise, to grow the brand. We definitely appreciate you guys, and we want to continue to see you. Presumably, we'll be back next week. Nick will be back with us, and hopefully, we'll be discussing the Bearcat victory. And Jermaine Griffin, he's making a proclamation right here. These are Jermaine's words. This is a big proclamation. He's making it, and I couldn't log out without reading it. From the words of Jermaine Griffin, Anson is gonna. Excuse me. I had a hard time even saying it. Let me get myself together. Let me get myself together to say this. Anson is gonna upset Monroe. You heard it here first. Ladies and gentlemen, Jermaine has spoken. With that, I want to wish you all a good night. Thank you for coming out. We'll be back next week. Everyone have a wonderful night.